Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan. Yesterday we covered the 9-year anniversary of the water crisis, so check out that 3.5 hour live stream. My back is feeling it after 3.5 hours. But I wanted to give my thoughts on Bernie Sanders now endorsing President Biden in April 2023. Not only announcing he will not run for a third presidential campaign, but going ahead and endorsing President Biden. Um, for years, I've been attacked on both sides. On one end, I've been called a Bernie bro that won't dare criticize Bernie, even though I've constantly criticized Bernie. And on other ends, I've been attacked for going too hard on Bernie. I think this will probably piss off both of those sides. But I got to tell you, to me, people can debate why Bernie is doing this, whether it's because he's naive or he's just a sellout, whether he's just bad at politics or he's just a fake. I personally think that it's kind of a mix of a lot of things, but most importantly, this is one of the worst political maneuvers I've ever seen. And this goes beyond him bowing out in 2016 and endorsing Hillary Clinton when he did. This is worse than him bowing out in 2020 and endorsing Biden when he did. This is by far the weakest, most miscalculated move I've seen, not just from Bernie Sanders, but anybody in politics. A few things. Number one, if he doesn't want to run again, that's obviously acceptable and understandable. He's 81, I believe, and he's done enough. He's done enough for the progressive movement. He's been fighting long before there was a Bernie movement, and he is entitled, even if he wants to retire and go spend his, sunset years with his grandkids and giving speeches and writing books. That's fine. So no problem that he's not running again. Obviously, you have Marianne Williamson running, RFK Jr. We'll get into that another time. But the fact that you would, unless we're all going to be shocked that he's suddenly got A, B, and C promises and concessions from Biden, which from somebody I just spoke with in Bernie world is unlikely. He basically gave away the store for nothing. For nothing. Now, if he wanted to later endorse Biden, say, before the Iowa or whatever comes first, South Carolina, people would have still been pissed off, but at least he would have held out and actually dangled his endorsement, which does still matter. Biden is not supported by the majority of Democrats. The polls show the majority of Democrats want somebody else. The polls show the majority of young people, which is Bernie's core base, disdain Biden. Young people only came out in the midterms in higher numbers because of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. It had nothing to do with them liking some Joe Biden. And Biden knows he's going to need that same coalition of young people, never Trumpers, suburban wine moms to come out for him if he's going to have a chance against Trump, who, as of now, looks like he'll be the Republican nominee. And remember, Trump did not lose by that much in the Electoral College in 2020, and he mostly lost because he badly mismanaged COVID. Do not for a second think that there is not a chance at a scenario where Trump could become president again. DeSantis, I don't think he's going to beat Trump in the primary. I've been on the record that I don't think DeSantis had a chance against Trump, and it was mostly a media manufactured thing with propping up DeSantis. But if for whatever reason Trump doesn't run again, I think DeSantis could beat Biden. Also, there's the elephant in the room. I mean, they're basically, after Biden released his campaign video yesterday, his campaign is basically saying, yeah, he's not really going to campaign. He's just going to do the job as president. Why do you think they don't want him campaigning? Could it be that they usually don't have him out publicly for evening speeches? They don't really have him out publicly in the evening. He's done the least amount of press interviews of any president in history. He's given the least amount of press conferences than any president in history. I'm not, a conspiracy theorist or pushing conspiracies about Biden's health. He's clearly not in his prime, and there might be some health things going on. So you bring it back to Bernie Sanders. If you're endorsing him this early and you're not demanding concessions, and when I say demanding concessions, right away, the first thing I think about is you say to Joe Biden, you want my endorsement right now? You're going to make number one priority, number one thing you're going to pledge for your campaign, reelect me, give me back a Democratic House and Senate. We've looked into the parliamentarian, which was always bullshit, and we don't agree with her decision that we cannot enact higher minimum wage through a budget. What was that process they used? Budget starts with an R. I'm forgetting where. Reconciliation. Yes, that's what happens when you're on the road. Through budget reconciliation, we're not listening to the parliamentarian, and you give me back a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate. We're going to do budget reconciliation for a $20 minimum wage, because in these days of inflation and higher prices between gas, groceries, housing, $15 minimum wage is inadequate. If you're Bernie Sanders, you say you pledge right now and you put it in your campaign proposals and you specifically say nothing will stop us. We disagree with the parliamentarian. That's what we're going to do. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Biden can't moonwalk away from it if he wins re-election, but at least you get him on the record in his campaign that we're not going to listen to a parliamentarian, that we've restudied it and it's allowed under the budget reconciliation, and we're gunning for a $20 minimum wage. If he moonwalks away from it, it's a lot easier to go at him as activists and a progressive left, because you have him abandoning his campaign pledge. Bernie could have done that. Doesn't seem like he did. Bernie could have said, you ran on a public option, it's mysteriously disappeared from your vernacular. Get him back on the record. We're going to, day one, do a public option, and do it right now, that even though he doesn't have control, Bernie demand that Biden use the bully pulpit and start campaigning on Republicans are blocking you from a public option. I want Medicare for all, but it's more realistic because Biden actually campaigned on a public option to demand that as a concession. Biden going further in canceling student loan debt, he should have done that in the first place. I don't necessarily think that's something Bernie should demand as a concession now, because frankly, it's very likely that the Supreme Court is going to rule against Biden's $10,000 bowl of crumbs. So I don't think that's a realistic concession to demand. But you get the point. He should have been demanding massive concessions right now from Biden. None of them would have realistically happened now because Republicans have control of the House. But he also could have demanded, in addition to the things that he demands Biden campaign on and promise if he gets reelected, he could have made demands of Biden take executive action now on certain things. And the American Prospect has a great story that they did right when Biden got into office in 2021. I think it was a list of 100 executive actions Biden could take right now on everything from healthcare, climate, mass incarceration, go down the list. So Bernie, as far as I could tell, and judging by having covered him in 2016, 2020, it seems consistent. He demanded nothing for his endorsement. And his endorsement still matters. Don't let, certain people like Jimmy Dore and others who have called him a fraud and a coward and a sellout and all that stuff as they've gone on their slow march towards pandering to the right and anti-vaxxers. Bernie is still beloved by a huge section of the left. Bernie is still beloved by a large amount of younger voters, anywhere from 18 to 30. Bernie is still championed by a lot of voters, in that sweet spot of 40 to 50. Yes, he has lost some of that support, but he still has a base of support who appreciates everything he has done, who still go out to see him. Remember, Bernie just went out for Brandon Johnson in Chicago before the mayoral election in Chicago, they got 4,000 people out for a Chicago mayoral election. Bernie still has pull. Biden knows that. So why Bernie? Even if you wanted to endorse him, even if for whatever reason you don't want to support Marianne Williamson, or maybe somebody else will announce. It's still early. Somebody else will announce on the progressive left. There is zero reason you had to do it now. And you could have played hardball. You could have gone on CNN, Meet the Press, the Washington elitist media shows, and said, yeah, I'm weighing my options. I've decided not to run, but I'm weighing my options. You got some candidates running like Marianne Williamson, and I'm weighing my options. As the poll numbers would come out showing Biden either barely beating Trump and DeSantis or losing, you don't think Biden and his team of neoliberal corporate hacks would become more desperate for that Bernie endorsement, more desperate for Bernie to be on the road campaigning for Biden and probably speaking more than Biden because Bernie is a lot more lucid at this point than Biden? Of course they would have wanted it. Now, devil's advocate, you could say, well, Jordan, who the hell cares? Biden could have promised to part the Red Sea, could have promised to heal the world, and he would have just gone back on all of that. Yeah, you might be right. I'm not minimizing that. I don't trust Joe Biden necessarily to follow through on any concessions, political concessions he would make to get Bernie to endorse him. But the point is to get him on the record as pledging A, B, and C, if you reelect me, if you give us a Democratic House, making him pledge bigger things like a $20 minimum wage. Maybe go a little further than the public option. So maybe have him offer a public option and something else in healthcare. And then, if he abandons it, he's on the record. He's on campaign stages promising it. It's in campaign ads. It's a lot easier to then for activists and the progressive left to go at him if then not getting those things on the record. Specifically getting him to say, we've restudied the issue and we don't think the parliamentarian is right. There's a whole host of other issues. Again, the executive actions Bernie could have demanded that he do right now. So it's incredibly disappointing. I'm not gonna, it would be a lot easier and a lot more profitable. We'd get a lot more clicks if we would have headlined this video. Bernie, full circle sellout. Bernie, coward, a fake, neoliberal Bernie, and, made a thumbnail that, had him bowing down to Biden. Would have been a lot more effective to do that. I'm not going to go that far because I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I appreciate everything Bernie Sanders has done for this movement, but in the Biden age, remember, Bernie Sanders is the one that said, hold your nose, vote for Biden, and we'll fight him on day one. Well, it's well past day one, and Bernie Sanders did not take the fight to Joe Biden, and he did not call on his supporters to take the fight to Joe Biden. And we are where we are now. Bernie has given away his leverage. He is not going to get anything for his endorsement, and he is basically a laughingstock of the Democratic establishment, who, rightly so, look at Bernie Sanders as a chicken shit that they could just continually throw under a bus and keep driving forward and backwards over Bernie. Dead political carcass. I mean, I'm sorry to be so graphic, but they don't take Bernie seriously because Bernie didn't make them take him seriously. He made them take him seriously with his unexpected, impressive underdog campaign in 2016. They definitely took him seriously in 2020 when Chris Matthews and the entire Democratic establishment was melting down after Bernie won Nevada and was knocking on the door of winning the Democratic nomination. Obama took him seriously then because he called Pete and Amy Klobuchar basically demanding they drop out of the race so the establishment can coalesce around Joe Biden. But that was the time for him to demand something. Now was the time for him to demand something real. And he didn't. And there's the other issue, and some will say, well, Jordan, what about Marianne Williamson? For concessions or no concessions from Biden, shouldn't Bernie be endorsing Marianne Williamson just on the merits? She is talking the Bernie speak. She's talking it in a different way because she's a different person with a different style, but her policies are a lot closer to the policies that Bernie has championed for 50 years, why would he endorse a corporatist hack like Joe Biden? Then maybe not at this moment endorse Marianne, but later on endorse Marianne. I agree with that too. I'm not going to lie to you. Is it likely that Marianne Williamson will upset Joe Biden? No. Am I on the Marianne train? I like Marianne Williamson. I like her policies. I think the way she's talking about the managed decline. I think she brings something that Bernie doesn't, because she's a little bit more articulate and connects in a few different buttons with voters that Bernie connected with. But at the same time, there's never been a primary challenger that has upset a sitting president. I think she could make it close if the DNC wasn't clearly rigging it and already saying we're not going to have debates and we're not even going to have a primary and we're coronating Joe Biden, which is undemocratic. And I don't want to hear from the Democratic Party about the risks and the threat of fascism when they don't believe in democracy, because they are basically canceling the primary for Joe Biden, which is completely undemocratic. But I also think, yeah, I mean, Bernie, unless a more left candidate jumps in, I think Bernie should endorse Marianne Williamson, whether it's now or later on, just on the merits, because politically it's not even close. I mean, Joe Biden might as well be the female version of Margaret Thatcher when it comes to, and Ronald Reagan, when it comes to Bernie Sanders, whereas Marianne Williamson is a lot closer to Bernie. So it doesn't make sense on a whole host of levels. Again, this doesn't mean, it's easy on YouTube to just be a reactionary jackass for clicks. It's easy to throw in the headline and cancel people forever and make everything black or white. And it's way more profitable to do that. I could have made a lot more money if 2 or 3 years ago I went on a holy crusade against Bernie Sanders like some others did. But I don't truly believe that, and I'm not going to pander to certain people just for clicks. I don't cancel Bernie Sanders. I don't say, forget everything he's done, but he deserves criticism. This is a pathetic political move by him. It, frankly, is, I believe, the action is selling out his movement. I don't know how you call it a political revolution when literally a year and a half before the election, when you do not have to endorse Joe Biden. You don't have to endorse him, period, but you definitely don't have to endorse him now. You're already endorsing him. That ain't revolution. That's capitulation. So on this, it's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. He's getting nothing for his endorsement. And I think in this action, he's selling out a lot of people, millions of people, that believed him when he said, hold your nose, vote for Trump, and we'll fight Biden on day one. Clearly, he did not mean that.